Hello and welcome to Scaling Identity Security in the Cloud, Automation Strategies for Human and Machine Identities. Today's webinar is sponsored by Red Hat and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech and I'm excited to be your moderator for this discussion panel. Now, before we get to today's great session, we do have a few housekeeping items that are going to help you get the most out of this session. So let's talk questions. We want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. So we won't be able to do a dedicated Q&A session at the end of this one, but we will pass along any questions that you have to the team from Red Hat for follow-up. The Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, and slide advancement issues. But if that doesn't work, just let us know in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Okay, next, handouts. In the handouts section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources. One of those is a cool ebook from Red Hat about simplifying your security operations center. Then there's a joint data center or a joint data sheet from Red Hat and CyberArk about achieving a strong and steady IT security posture with automation. There's also a link to a video from Red Hat about keeping credential and data safe with enterprise-grade secrets management. And finally, there's a Red Hat case study about how CyberArk and Red Hat work together on a joint solution that centralizes security and secrets management. So I encourage you to access those resources now and feel free to share them with your friends and colleagues. Now, I'm sure you noticed the prize icon there. At the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant just in time for all your Christmas shopping. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. All right. With that housekeeping out of the way, let's get to today's fantastic session. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our great panel today. Leading the discussion is going to be E.G. Nodden. He's Global Chief Architect Leader in the Field CTO organization at Red Hat. Nodden is joined by Jeff Lombardo, a Principal Security Solution Architect for Amazon Web Services, Brandon Traffenstedt, Field CTO at CyberArk, and Setu Kulkarni, who's Vice President of Product Management in Machine Identities, also at CyberArk. So it's great to have all of them here. We're looking forward to this conversation. Nodden, over to you.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Nodden. I am the Field CTO Ambassador from Red Hat, and we are here today to talk about securing identities with automation at scale. Security is a team game, and it requires multiple companies to come together, multiple software vendors, systems integrators, different types of service providers to work together. And today is an example of how three different companies can come together, have come together to make the world a more secure place by securing identities. I'm the Field CTO Ambassador at Red Hat, the world's largest enterprise software company with an open source development model. We work with our partners to make the digital world a more secure place, starting with open source. But we are about enterprise open source. While we innovate in the open source community every day, working with others, we harden it, we secure it, and that's what is provided as enterprise software for mission critical application. We don't do it alone. We do it with partners like AWS, who is on the call today, on the webinar today, as well as CyberArk. So I'm going to request our distinguished panelists, Jeff, Brandon, and Setu, to take a couple of minutes to introduce themselves and what their companies bring from an identity management perspective. Jeff?
Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Lombardo. I'm one of the principal security specialists in Canada for AWS. So you might know us because we are one of the leading cloud provider for like cloud services that you might use. I just came back from reInvent where we had a lot of announcements related to the topic of today. So I'm super happy to join you and thank you, Naden, for bringing us again around the table over here. Like for example, we had like the central route management account for organizations that may be related to the machine and user identities that we can talk about. And we also released two new policies that customer can use now to even more granularly control access to the resources. So maybe we will talk about that today.
We absolutely will, Jeff. Thank you so much. And I love the timing of this webinar, which is fresh right after reInvent. So we'll take full advantage of what you have to share, Jeff. Brandon?
Awesome. Nadan, thank you for the invite to be here. So happy to be. And all of you who've joined, thanks for taking your time. My name is Brandon Traffenstedt. I'm one of the field CTOs at CyberArk. My group handles anything and everything to do with technical strategy at CyberArk, part of which means making sure we're building things that drive positive outcomes and also that we're partnering with others you trust, like Red Hat and AWS. CyberArk is in the business of, well, securing identities. So I reckon we're a little bit biased as far as this topic is concerned, but that goes anything from originating the privileged access management market back in 2003 and refactoring it to now looking at what a powerful identity is, securing its operating area, the stuff it accesses, and doing that across new identities in new environments without forgetting any existing environments that might be there, and making sure that we're covering the foundational attack paths that many of you probably have tattooed in the backs of your minds, but also any new attack methods that threat actors are cooking up these days. Again, very happy to be part of the conversation today.
Thank you, Brandon. Setu?
Thank you, Anand, for the invite. My name is Setu Kulkarni. I am the VP of Product Management here at Venafi. Venafi is now a CyberArk company. So we are what we complete the picture of identities. We add machine into machine identity. Venafi, many of you may know Venafi as the creator, the innovator of the machine identity management space. So happy to be here to talk about machine identities.
Excellent. So, Brandon, let's start with you on securing identities. What are some steps that enterprises can take? And is it really a realistic world to expect that every identity can be secured? Brandon?
Every identity is one of the most powerful absolutes that you can find. And I'm a Star Wars guy, so only the Sith deal in absolutes. I would extend that to the Sith and security people slash threat actors. So when we think about the notion of securing every identity, step one, take a breath, because it is a large order. Step two, just like climbing a mountain, right? One step at a time. In a lot of cases, the first step is of the steps. I feel like I've used the word step like 37 times, but the first way to get going is a prioritization exercise. And to start that exercise, we have to square on what an identity actually is. And I'll give you my definition, right? It's anything that has access to your stuff. That thing could be human or machine. That could be a member of your workforce, a developer, or a member of your IT staff. Machines are, in this case, powerful identities too. The second thing is prioritization. Digging deeper into that topic, I'd like you to take just a quick second and think about an identity in your organization that needs to be secure. Just take a quick second to do it. Chances are you probably thought about some privileged IT user. Maybe they're accessing the cloud, maybe they're accessing on-prem resources. And yeah, if that's the case, that's typically where attackers are going to start too, right? The creamy nougaty center of your organization, wherever that may live. However, I would argue that if we look at the notion of a privileged identity, a powerful identity, it isn't just those users. It's members of your finance team, as an example, members of your HR team. It's your developers who are likely operating with some of the highest privileges in your org, as well as those machines too. So to get that started and do the prioritization, I recommend something called the tummy test. If you think about an identity and the idea of that identity being compromised makes your stomach turn, that's a way to get started. Now, the good news is once you've gotten that sort of in place, you've got your key identities, we can begin to build a framework around securing what they access, securing their operating area through things like strong and adaptive authentication, any sort of credential and secrets management that might be needed, moving into things like zero standing privilege and just-in-time access as we begin to look at these new and modern environments as well. If you have challenges figuring out which to prioritize, there's more good news here. There are tons of frameworks out there that you can align to, which leads me to the final piece of that sort of getting started and how we can begin to handle the scope and scale. Make friends. Just like one vendor can't do security alone, you also can't imagine getting it done in a vacuum. So whether it's challenging all of us to work better together or working with your peers, securing every identity starts by making sure you have a solid support system, making sure you jump into prioritization, and then making sure you begin to be consistent in how you approach each of these different identities.
So it's interesting you say about working together. So I'm looking at the CyberArk Venafi acquisition that was very recent. And Setu, as he introduced himself, he's from Venafi. So I'm curious, Setu, how does, given what Brandon just explained, what does Venafi offer from an identity security standpoint? So if you can take that away, Setu.
For sure. I think just kind of following on from what Brandon said, we've got to remember, right? There are two actors on a network. All of us, humans and machines. And what do humans use? You use usernames, passwords to do what? Authenticate and authorize yourselves so that you can get secure access to machines, whether you're a privileged user or a developer or an IT user or a member of the workforce. What do machines use? Machines use machine identities. The challenge is the number of machines is growing exponentially. The number of machine identities is growing. Volume of machine identities. Now, the velocity at which you need to lifecycle manage these machine identities is also very rapid. Think about how many times a container is spun up and spun down in an ephemeral cloud native application. Every time that lifecycle action happens, you also need to automate the machine identity along with it. And lastly, the variety of machine identities from the omnipresent TLS certificate to SSH keys to SPIFFE IDs, the variety of machine identities is also very large. So when you think about identity security as a whole, think about automating identity security, you also need to pay a lot of attention to machine identities. Now, to do the tummy test that Brandon talked about, think about what are the number of machine identities in your environment. And if your tummy turns, then you've got a problem to go fix.
Yeah, queuing off of what you just said, I'm going to state something and keep me honest. Um, people may conjure up different images when they think about machine identities. Could be a data center server, huge physical, multiple racks and whatnot. But frankly, an API, an algorithm, a program routine, a function call, all of those are machine identities in their own right. So if your tummy is not already turning, think about the number of API calls that are made, the number of algorithms, especially with AI, ML, Gen AI, and all of those creeping in. There are many more machine identities that one can even begin to imagine. Would you agree with that assertion, Setu?
Of course, somebody famously said software eats the world. Every software bit out there is a machine, and every machine on the network needs an identity because it wants to authenticate and authorize itself against some other machine. So yeah, you're absolutely
And a
right.
rough metric that I have come across is 1:45. For every human identity, there are at least 45 machine identities. So that brings up, while the tummy is turning, there is also this concern about scale. Uh, how can we scale? And therefore, I would even submit automation plays a vital role. To imagine that even securing human identities manually is not the right thing to do. You need automation, but then 45 times there are 45 times more reasons why automation should be part of it. So I'm going to move on to Jeff. So, you know, identities need to be secure no matter where the workloads are. Could be the data center, it could be the cloud. And believe it or not, guys, even this week, yesterday, I was in a podcast where the question came up about cloud security. So, despite the fact that we have been not are not only in the cloud, we have grown and it is growing, there is still somebody asked the question, oh my God, we are going into the cloud. Are we secure? So, your thoughts, Jeff, from a cloud perspective, are there any nuances that apply because we are in the cloud when it comes to identity management, Jeff?
Okay, so first of all, that's the question that I got a lot from our customer, and effectively the customers that are maybe starting their journey to the cloud. What I like a lot is the Brandon reference to the Star Wars nerdy culture over there. I mean, the Death Star blow up because a human got access to something that was highly privileged and shares that with people that should not have access to that in the first place, even if they were the good guy at the end of the day. I will stop there for the analogy. But yeah. So when you are going to the cloud, one thing is that you have to understand is that you are offloading a big part of the risk also to us. And with the experience that we have at running the infrastructure, making sure that the infrastructure is secure, that no operator access is possible to your own data, is a very strong statement that we can back with like technology, but also certification. Okay, but it's true that still identity and access management still needs to be managed even when you are operating into the cloud. Okay, we are not we are talking about resources for which you want to be sure that only the right person have access to. That's the first point. And like you said, there are sometimes workloads that live into other cloud than AWS, and this is completely fine. And that's why we have invested a lot into providing the ability that you can exchange whatever proof of authentication that you can have into other realms, into what is the de facto standard for the AWS realms, which are the temporary AWS IAM credentials that are automatically rotating, that can allow you like to quickly revoke in case of there is a problem. And I'm glad that we are partnering with CyberArk over here, because CyberArk can be like this orchestration of this multi-cloud, even if you are considering on-premises workload and your own data center as a cloud of itself, orchestrating all of that with an homogeneous strategy. And I think what Brandon said also is that for a very long time, for human, we got identity provider, which is like the source of truth. They are saying everything for authentication from a human perspective, which is super great in order to see as soon as there is a signal of something going outside of the natural behavior of the human, we can react, ask for multi-factor authentication, maybe ask for captcha, additional element, a passkey, a face verification, anything onto that. We need the same for machines. And I'm glad that we have Venafi, which is like a CyberArk company now, which is a leader into this market for a very long time, because they can propose an IDP for machine. And machine identity, especially when we are talking about, for example, CI/CD pipeline that might be outside again of AWS, that might try to deploy stack into AWS and other cloud, those pipeline need identity. They have a lot of power on what they can and cannot do inside the ecosystem. And that's why the OpenID Foundation released a new working group, which is called WIMSI, for workload identity in multi-system environment, that I am a part of. And we try to standardize all of that to make sure that everyone is speaking the same language, and we are making it easier for customers. So that will allow us to do three things. The first one is that to do just in time and zero standing privilege, which is like a thing that can allow humans to be far away from the ecosystem, which is the most critical, the production one, and only providing access when needed be. The second aspect is like policy-based access control. We do that a lot with AWS IAM for our own resources, but we want customers to be able to do that for their own resources into their own application. And CyberArk is a partner also into that because, for example, when now they are protecting access to databases, they can apply those policies and do like the exact allow access to the exact SQL request to the database with the right condition and the right parameter to only return the least amount of data which is corresponding to what the person is trying to do. And finally, onto the partnership that we are creating with you, Red Hat, with us, is that we are capable of sharing security signals. If one of us sees something that goes wrong, go bad, we can notify the others. And up to any one of us, depending on what is the signal that we are receiving, the criticality of it, to take action onto that and to be sure that we might say, for example, okay, sorry, your session is off now. Go back to your IDP, re-authenticate maybe with a higher assurance mechanism, and come back to me. And if you can provide a new proof, then I will let you go.
Thank you so much, Jeff. What I loved about the insights you shared is, you actually addressed a multi-environment world where you can actually coexist. And I'm going to tee off that to talk about first the field CTO organization at Red Hat, and then expand a bit on what I started about open platforms. So, as the field CTO organization, we are at the intersection of sales and engineering, where we have field CTOs, technology strategists, chief architects who interact with customers and partners strategically to better understand what their outcomes are. And then we see what are opportunities in the market, what our customer needs, and then bring that back to engineering. So we are at that intersection. And what we perceive is a need for platforms to be open, starting with the operating system, the container platform, OpenShift, automation platform, Ansible automation platform. These are all the product offers we have are based upon that need for customers, enterprises to have a choice. And where I'm going with that is, with AWS, for example, there is a service that AWS provides, Red Hat OpenShift on AWS. And OpenShift by itself is a platform that can be, resident, can run anywhere, really, data center, virtualized, any cloud environment, edge, and so on. So this type of a partnership, to Jeff's point, allows us to address identity management in a consistent way no matter where you're running. And such partnerships matter. It matters even from a CyberArk standpoint because, from when we manage secrets in OpenShift, we, work with, the solutions that CyberArk has more from a single source of truth and enterprise grade platform and, distributed management and so on. But I'm going to defer to Setu when it comes to both OpenShift and automation as to, what I learned from Setu when we met was we are already doing things with Venafi even before the CyberArk acquisition. So this is, long time coming is how I would see it, Setu. So if you want to expand on how Venafi already works with Red Hat, please go ahead.
For sure. I think the most exciting thing that I can talk about is Cert Manager, right? If you are remotely even thinking about doing any Kubernetes type development or OpenShift development, right? You are invariably going to be using Cert Manager. Maybe you don't even know about it. So Cert Manager is something that is available open source, but it is something that Venafi has kind of donated to CNCF. Right, so Cert Manager is now available open source. There's an enterprise version of Cert Manager. Cert Manager is also shipped with OpenShift. Right, so if you are an OpenShift customer, you are using Cert Manager, which is the de facto certificate, X509 certificate management system for Kubernetes and OpenShift environments. Kind of moving on from there, we also have a Venafi operator that is Red Hat certified. So when you think about automation and you think about simplicity and you think about how developers can just close their eyes and do what needs to be done to secure machine identities, the Venafi operator already Red Hat certified. They could use it to get most, if not all, of the machine identity tasks done. And the final thing that I'd like to kind of offer up here is if you're using Ansible, there's already an Ansible playbook that allows you to kind of automate every little machine identity task you need to automate across the board. I think that's kind of one big touch point. There might be another touch point that maybe I'll kind of kick this over to Brandon. Brandon, do you want to talk about secrets management as a touch point to OpenShift?
Yeah, more than happy to. Thanks, Setu. And there's a pretty nifty sort of blending of all of our technologies at play here. So when we look at, as an example, the concept of secrets management, right? We mentioned earlier that machines are valid identities too, and that they should authenticate as strongly as humans, but a machine can't respond to a push, so we have to find other ways to do it. On one hand, to Setu's point, there's the all-powerful TLS certificate or key-based authentication, but there may be a myriad of other secrets that are being leveraged as part of your OpenShift builds. One of the things that CyberArk and Red Hat worked on together was the concept of a native integration with OpenShift secrets. So instead of needing to call from within OpenShift or Kubernetes out to another external store like CyberArk's, why not just let us go and update the secrets as needed? Whether it's as build or whether it's a request, doesn't really matter. A developer is able to concern themselves with actually building and fixing versus the life cycle of the secret itself. That also extends into AWS as well. In partnership with AWS, we put together a solution that we call Secrets Hub. So same concept, right? Developers still leveraging the native secret store, in this case, AWS Secrets Manager, while getting the rotation visibility of something like CyberArk. So you get the best of both worlds. Security is happy because you have that visibility. You've got that sort of security chain. Developers are happy, and what they write is happy because they didn't have to keep this security element top of mind. We expect, as we look towards the future, these types of things to continue to happen to where we don't have to always make an operational sacrifice in order to get good user-friendly security.
I
And
love
if I
it
can
when
add
I
to,
don't have to talk. Oh, sorry, Jeff, you're going to say something. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to add to what Brandon said because this is like super important what you just said, and that's why I like the CyberArk offering over there. Is that if we make the rotation a natural part of the secret life cycle, now eradicating all secret, which is something which can be super hard to do. There will be some secrets that unfortunately will keep on live, even if we can reduce them to the minimum. Having like the automatic rotation part of the mechanisms that can be used is now like decreasing even the surface of attack and the criticality of the remaining secret that exists. And that's really what I like into the CyberArk platform and offering on AWS here.
Thank you, Jeff. So I love it when I don't have to talk about what we are doing with partners, and it comes straight from them. I mean, I'm just listening and sitting back, relaxing, and enjoying the ride, as they say on a flight. But to the viewers, to those who are watching this, I want to call out what you just witnessed here. Partnerships is not just about walking into the same customer's office and say, "Hey, we do X and they do Y, and we can work together." What you are seeing here is we are already working together. The products are already integrated because we have seen the need for you, the customer, and we are integrating ahead of time so that it makes it easier for you to be secure identities. So you have the different ingredients needed that are integrated for you. That's what you heard from Brandon, from Jeff, from Setu. And it's not just about, I love the way Brandon and Jeff transitioned, where it is not just about two of us partnering, it is really all three of us partnering in different ways. So I just want to call that out. Now, I do want to highlight, if there is one word that jumps out, especially given the number of machine identities and the number of what is going on in the world about the adversaries are us, the bad actors being always on the prowl. They are collaborating. And therefore we need to collaborate as well. Security is not a one person game. Security is not a one company game. Security is a team game, and team sport is about collaboration. But at the same time, when we collaborate, we need to think about how we can automate effectively. So, automation and collaboration are two key themes that jump out. When I think about what can we do to make the world a more secure place with secure identities, it is collaborate and automate. Those are the two that jump out to me. But as we come to maybe the closing statements here, I'm going to ask all of you to provide some takeaways for the audience as to what comes to what are some key, maybe one takeaway from each one of you. I just talked about collaboration and automation, two nice buzzwords. Thank you very much. But any thoughts you have, Brandon? Why don't we start with you? What should, given everything we shared about what securing identities is all about, and how it is in the cloud and how we are partnering and all that, some crisp takeaways for the audience here, Brandon.
Yeah, happy to provide a few. So take this as an opportunity to perform that tummy test across existing identities you're protecting and also some of the newer ones and environments that we mentioned. Once you've done that, consider correlating controls to the type of user, type of environment, type of risk. And I say this to those of you who have had long-running identity security programs. Some questions to ask might be, do my developers want to chase me out of town because I'm not using things like adaptive authentication? Or have I not imposed things like least privilege on any number of machine workflows? A couple things that we can think on that help us prioritize and begin to use the integrations and partnerships that we've talked on here. But really do try that tummy test, maybe before lunch versus after lunch. Don't want any bad things to happen there.
Love it. Tummy test before lunch. Great thought. Setu?
The thought that comes to mind is you got to know the unknown, right? And the only way to know the unknown is go run a discovery scan, right? Go discover where all your secrets are, where all your certificates are. Then once you have all of them in front of you, then you can start making some quick decisions to reduce risk, whether it's operational risk because of an outage, or there's a security risk because maybe you've got some secrets in an S3 bucket out there. So I think knowing the unknown is super important. So do everything you can to run discovery scans to figure out where all your secrets are, where all the certificates are.
Excellent. Maybe so do the discovery scans, then do the tummy test, and then go for lunch. Maybe that's the right sequence. Bring it home, Jeff. How about you, sir?
So I would say keep on pushing the status quo onto the decisions that you have made. There are new features that are released. We are taking care of the new use cases, the threats that we see into the world to provide new features. It's not just us, AWS. It's you, Red Hat. It's you, CyberArk, doing that. So let's take care of that. Okay, like for example, for CI/CD pipeline, now it's super easy to remove those super privileged credentials from your CI/CD pipelines that are long-lived to shift to something which is more short-lived, only issued when needed. For example, with like what Venafi here is providing. So take care of those new features because it will reduce the risk for you. You will better sleep at night. And then while you are no longer worrying about those specific aspects, you will be able to spend more time onto the more complex one that you need to take care of for your organization.
That resonates. That hits home for me, Jeff, because as the field CTO organization, we are not only looking at the products on the truck, but also what are the technologies coming around the corner. So, in addition to the new features in the product themselves, what are we missing out on, or what should we be looking ahead to? That is something that we need to be always cognizant of. I'm going to say, given the integrations that we already have in place, there is a call to action for us, for all three companies here. And that is to look at different use cases that customers have and see how we can bring our capabilities together with a purpose to address, a set of use cases. And then if we have, architectures and deployable patterns, single click, where we bring our capabilities together, it actually makes it easier for our customers to not just take the benefit of the integration, but jumpstart it, make it so that they don't have to, assemble using the integrations. It's already prepackaged. 80/20 rule. No solution is going to be 100% there. There'll be some amount of configuration. So, given the intent, mindset, and the fantastic integrations that we already have in place, I would say our call to action is to work together to provide validated architectural patterns that customers can use. And on that note, I'm going to close and thank everyone for joining, and definitely look forward to what others have to say. So thank you very much for being here, Brandon, Setu, and Jeff.
Thank you, Leland.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
as
you.
well.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and thanks, Naden, for running that really timely and informative conversation. That was great. And for those of you who ask questions, we'll make sure that the panelists get those questions so they can follow up with you. And a quick reminder that this is your last chance to grab those handouts before we close the event in a moment or two. Excuse me. Now, before we wrap up, we have one more piece of business. It's the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card is Michael Livingston from Wisconsin. So congratulations to Michael Livingston. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Red Hat for making this event possible. And thanks as always for attending. That's going to conclude today's event. Have a fantastic rest of your day.